Hi YouTube, Neil here with FaceliftInteriors. Welcome back to our channel. In this week's video, we're going to be doing reupholstery basic tips and tricks of recovering a chair, and it's going to be one of our high street to high end videos, things. The chair is brand new, bought from one of our favourite flat pack high street stores. Now usually in our high street to high end videos, these chairs or sofas have cut major corners. This one wasn't as bad as what I've seen before. Like for instance, there was hardwood used in the frame, there was gaps, so the frame wasn't a continuous bit of wood. There was where they pin bits together and there was a gap. But overall, it wasn't too bad. And it was brand new as well, so it hadn't had wear at all. So we got rid of all the old fabric and the stuff that they put underneath their fabrics because it just wasn't any good. And what we did is we put some really quite high quality Dacron on, quite thick, for extra luxury. We've done an outside back instead of a zipped back because obviously this manufacturer makes everything, you have to make it at home. It comes all flat packed in a box. So what we did is we bolted it all together and then put a proper outside back on so it doesn't come apart anymore. And we put a really high quality velvet on it as well, just to take it from a high street chair that a lot of people have got, because I guess they sell a lot of them, and they're all the same fabric because they obviously buy mass amounts of fabric and they cover them all in the same fabric. So by doing this, you've got a totally unique piece that is unique to you because you've chosen the fabric. So there's loads of really good tips and tricks in this video with regards to working with velvets, sewing velvets, how to cut, just the whole process. We go through it very detailed and there's some really good tips in there. So as always, please don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Hit that notification bell so you see each time a video becomes available. Also, please don't forget to follow us over on Instagram. Put the link in one of the corners. We are always putting up our finished products and we're always doing little short videos during the week as well with little tips and tricks. So don't forget to follow us over there. So without further ado, this is how to recover a high street chair, turn it into high end. And action! As you can see here, this is a chair. Yeah, what we're going to do is we're going to strip this down and we're going to see changes we can make to make this high-end chair over a high street chair. Straight away, what I can show you on the back is this. There's a zip. See this zip? So we won't be putting a zip on there. We'll be putting pipe in. So what we're going to do is I'm going to start stripping this down, take it off the frame. So let's just see what we can do with this. The thing I can see here that is cheap, I mean the springs aren't the best and the plastic clips, but apart from that, it's not bad. It's like a little hardwood frame. So I'm just going to strip this down, see what's inside. Right, so as you can see, we're taking our covers off. This is the inside back, outside back. As you can see, it's all sewn in one. You can see I've got my hands in the zip here. What we're gonna do is we're gonna unpick here, get rid of the outside back, and when we cut this, we're gonna cut our border longer because we're gonna do a separate outside back, which is like decent upholstery. Because this is obviously mass produced. It's not actually bad though. I'm quite surprised with how it's not actually too bad. So what I'm gonna do here is show you here. See that seam there? What I can do here is just mark that. So I know exactly where that is going to line up to that when I sew it back up. And we'll do the same this side. You can see there that seam, I'm just going to mark there. So I know when I cut the new face, I'll mark that and then I'll do a join exactly the same as this one. And then I know there that that seam has got to drop onto that nip there. So that's the back. And we've got the seat here as well. We're going to do the same on the seat. So do a little mark on there. And do a little mark on there as well. Right, so we're going to start unpicking these now. So you see there it's got a shape, so we will follow that, we'll use that. So this has been top stitched, so I'm lifting this top stitch up. And now I've opened it up. So now I can use my nippers to go along like this. And I would recommend using these when you've got, you know, a bit of fabric that you need to reuse, because this is the safest way of doing it. You go along and you nip, and therefore you're not damaging the fabric. Whereas if you're using a Stanley blade, like so, and you get a bit over enthusiastic, and you put a tear in the fabric, because it can, these are so sharp, they can just tear the fabric. And if you need to reuse that fabric, you're in trouble. but we don't have to reuse this, so I'm just going to use a Stanley knife and go along. So I'm going to put you down so you can see me what I'm doing here. The thing is, when it's top stitched, you can see that there is 2 stitches you've got to get through. So best off laying it down like this, and you can see your stitches that you need to get through. So you can see that, using my hand to hold that bit down, using this hand to pull the seam apart so you can see the stitches, and then pop straight through. So there we go. There's our front border there. Then our side border, you know, it's got this shape here, so we will follow that. And that is the top of the seat. You can see our marks here. There's one mark and then the other one over this side. So obviously that lines up with the front border. So we'll put that to the side. Now we'll unpick the back. This back border here, I'm just gonna go and cut all this off. The reason I'm doing that is because we do not need it. So I'm just cutting inside the seam because we're gonna do a separate outside back. Like I said, this is high street to high end, so we're going to do a good quality bit of upholstered furniture. So there's going to be no zips, you know. And I mean, I get why the company did it, because they make stuff that people can make on their own at home, but it's not what we do. That is our back, and we're going to unpick this as well. So mark the top of that border as front, just so I know that's the front side. I'm going to mark that as top as well. Now remember, if you're stripping off old fabric, it doesn't matter. Mark it as much as you need if you're going to be recovering it, because you don't want to lose where you are. That is a big part of reupholstery, following how it was done before, marking out little nips so you followed the same shape if it does sit well. So now we can start cutting our new panels. Right, so here's our template. What you should do is fold it over and see if it matches, and it does perfectly. Because what you want, you don't want 2 different sides, you want it to be perfectly symmetrical. So what I do here, I'm surprised I haven't, is take a nip out of the middle there, and take a nip out of the middle there. So now, this is our seat panel. We don't have to cut around both sides. We can literally cut one side, put the nip there, then fold it over. So this is the right way to do it, to make sure you've got a perfectly symmetrical pattern. So I'm just going to take a nip there. Also, remember what I did here is I checked my pile is the velvet. The pile, if you can see that, the smooth side's coming down or forward. That's exactly how you want it. So now I'm just going to cut around this template. And nip the back as well. So now we've done that, we can now fold this over. So we've got our nip there, and that is exactly where we folded it. And the same on the front. Make sure it's nice and flat. Use some stuff to hold it in place so it doesn't slide, because velvet does slide. And then using your scissors, follow the template. I tell you what we did forget to do was put our nips on here, which is very silly-ish. So that is our seat panel cut. Right guys, so now we are going to be cutting the inside back. So with the seat, obviously the seat, we had cut it this way because the pile of the velvet comes this way. But with this one, it's the back, so it needs to be the other way, because you always want the smoothness running down. You want it coming down the back, down the seat, forward on the seat, shall we say. So see, the smoothness runs down. So when I run my hand that way, you can see that the pile goes up. And this way the pile comes down. So it means that the top is up here. So the seat, you want it coming this way, the back, you want it coming this way. So that is how you always cut velvet. You always cut it coming down. So the smooth side coming down. This is how we're going to cut our inside back. Like before, we're going to nip halfway and halfway. One there and one there. Again, following the shape. I'm very lucky because this is quite a new bit of furniture. The selvage sits quite flat. Yeah, sometimes you're going to have to flatten the selvage. So what you'll have to do is get an iron out and flatten it down, because it will, you know, it will puckered up and stuff because it's been sat for so many years. We are very lucky this way. So as you can see, we've gone halfway there and put our nip here. Halfway here, we're going to put a nip here. So we've got plenty at the bottom to use. And then obviously we've got a little nip here as well. Now again, so we're going to fold over, lay down nice and flat. Now we know we've got a perfect template, perfectly symmetrical. And then we're going to mark using a pencil. Don't use pen, because pen can come through the fabric eventually. Top, inside, back. Easy as that. So, as this is a velvet, these panels want to be coming down this way, and the 20 3/4 by 6, we want it coming this way. So I will explain more. Right, so the reason we cut this way, because we want the pile coming forward with the back. So this will make sense. When I lay this down here, this panel's going to go there. The pile, smooth side coming down. You want it to run down. On the back it will go down, but this way it's going to come this way. And these are our side panels. This is going to go here, so I'm going to cut that this way. So again, the smooth side's running down. Now we'll staple this together. One there. Stitch that together. So you'll stitch these two, and then the inside back will come down here, and these will sew down the inside back. The first thing we should do is sew some of our borders together. And what you have to do sometimes with these walking foot machines and these threads is hold them back out of the way. So this is our inside back, and this is our inside back border. I'm just going to take a nip out of the middle because I forgot to do that. Right, so I've got my front, so I know where my front needs to be. So I'm just going to double check by laying this on if these seams are going to fall exactly where I want them to, and yes they are. So I'm going to start, some people might do this differently, but I'm going to start just past the middle so I know that the middle nip stays in line. And then just going to continue stitching round. When I get to this border, I'm going to lay it down nice and flat. Holding the fabrics nice and straight together. And this is quite good, this velvet isn't sliding so much. Some velvets, you know, really slide. So that's one side done. So this side, we flipped it around, we're going from the other side now. So we're sewing onto the top, onto the inside back, and then we move the inside back around. So we're coming up to our border, so we want to make sure, to our join, so we want to make sure that is nice and flat. And you just move the inside back around. So now we're going to top stitch this. So we're going to top stitch onto the border. So I'm using this outside of this foot here to run along the seam and give me like 1/4 of an inch, just over, of top stitch. So that is that all top stitch. I'm just going to go and try it on. Right guys, so we're going to stick some Dacron onto this seat. Is the seat or the back? It is the back. So I've got some thick Dacron, I think this is 9 ounce, just to give it a bit more something. And what I do here is flip this over, just going to glue along there, and I pull that out nice and tight so I can see how much I can cut off. Same on this side. So I'm going to cut off all this excess here. Just snip that off there. Do the same along here. So now that is ready for upholstery. So I've put quite a lot of padding on this. So it's going to be tight. So this is our back, you can see here. So you see there you've got a shape here. So that shape needs to go there. And these seams on the top need to go on the corners here. I'm just going to show you how I would go about this. And then it's up to you how you do yours. So I'm just working this around, as you want your seams to be in exactly the same place. So I'm just going to have a look. My corner is here. So what I do is I'm just going to make sure that seam is on the corner there. What I'm going to do is just put a temporary in there. I'm going to do the same the other side, and again, temporary staple there. So here, there is a hole that the bolt needs to go through for this chair, so I'm just going to cut away some of that Dacron. So what I'm going to do here is work down, and if you see here, you can't see here because of the Dacron, but there is a shape here. So what I need to do is make sure that that point there is where it needs to be. So I'm just going to put a staple in there. Now the same on this side, the shape is there. So I'm going to pull down nice and tight. Get a couple in there to hold that still. Now we've got our 4 anchor points in, so here, here, and the other side as well. So that was just to get them in place. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to push down and get this velvet where it needs to be stapled off. So there, that's the middle. Now with this one, it's a bit tricky. So I'm pulling all my excess down from here. You can see there that needs to be cut. So I'm just going to put a little slice in there. So again, pulling down our tension, making sure it's straight. I'm going to do the same on this side. So we're pushing our excess down, and stapling off on the bottom. So with upholstery, guys, it's rare that anything goes on first time perfectly. So don't get stressed if it doesn't go on perfectly first time, because it really does. It's a lot of manoeuvring. Okay, so that's our bottom on. So now, basically, you can see these crinkles here. So we're pulling this way, and I'm pulling my seam back. I don't want to pull it too tight, but that's one. And then we'll go to the other side. We'll do the same thing, pulling these crinkles out, and pulling our seam back, and stapling off. I mean, you can even be hypercritical if you want. With a tape measure, you can measure that. And you can do the same on the other side and see if you're exactly the same if you want to be hypercritical. So now we've got the seam where we want it to be. We now can start pulling the top, because we've got a line to follow, because the seam's already there. So you just want to keep this straight. Now, just follow that line, show you how I look. So you look straight down the line. You can see here that this here needs to be pulled in, but this side's on line. So use your hand to pull the fabric here. Use this hand to push it down and get exactly where you need it. So this hand is helping push it down. This hand, right hand, is holding it in place. Now we start coming down the sides. You can see there where our border is. So we want to get that pulled round nice and tight, like so. Get a staple in there. And now we can see the line that we need to follow. So that is where we want to be. See, well, this needs to come down. Right guys, so I'm just putting this chair back together. What I've done here is I put some bottoming onto here to this point, because there's a just going to tighten those up, lock them in. Now I'm just going to stick some bolts on so they don't come loose.
So I'm really sorry guys, so my mic decided to just die or stop working. So what I've done is I've put a nip in the middle of the piping to make sure it's even, and I've marked on the middle of the frame. So basically I'm running the piping around. You'll see the hard wooden edge. I'm running the piping so it sits right up against the wooden edge, and I'm stapling right up into the top of the piping. Stapling all the way down to the bottom. Now I've put a nip in the middle of my outside back, and I've lined that up with the middle of the frame. And what I've done is I've pulled it tight either way as well, so it's not baggy. So now I've got my back tack, and this is important when you're stapling your back tack. Push your back tack all the way up so it can't go any further, then you staple it. You staple it close to the edge as well, close to the top, so once you pull the fabric down nice and tight, the cardboard doesn't roll with it. I like to put nice tidy staples on the end as well to stop it from folding up. Then I pull down and check that it sits nicely. Now I get my metal gripper, push it right up and start stapling down. I use longer staples on metal gripper to make sure I get through all the fabric and into the wood. Staple all the way down, and then I push the metal gripper down about 25%. Now I put a lining fabric on just to give you a real solid back. This doesn't have to be that tidy, it just needs to be on there. So just make sure it's nice and tight. Now I'm putting some glue on. I'm going to put some Dacron on for ultimate luxury and nice finish. So I've just glued that on, and now I'm going to staple the Dacron to the top of the back tack cardboard as well, so it doesn't, when you pull the fabric down, the Dacron doesn't turn as well. Then cut away your excess Dacron, pull your fabric down nice and tight, put a temporary in the middle, and then put one or two either side just to set the fabric in the right place. Now I use my fingers to start pushing the fabric into the metal gripper. So now I use the regulator to push in nice and tight, and what this is also doing is marking the fabric, so it gives me a good line to follow with my scissors. So I cut just away from that mark, and now I can start pushing the fabric in and then pushing the gripper down for it to be finished. I do that on both sides. I obviously do one side first and then go on to the other side. As you can see here, we're using the regulator to push it in, make sure it sits in nice and tight. Now we're using our hammer to hammer the gripper down so it's nice and solidly fixed. Then we take our 3 temporaries out the bottom, and now we can pull that extra tight, staple it off. Then we're putting our bottom fabric on. This is just a black bottoming that we'd already temporarily put on because of where the rail was. Now we're just finishing it off. Then we're going to put our fire label on. And this is the finished product. Isn't she beautiful? Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.